Help support Chris and Zach Attack by liking and sharing all of our content, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for all your latest video game news and updates. Hello friends, it's Chris.
It is Zach in the house.
Welcome to Chris and Zach Attack Persona 5. Not 4, Persona 5.
I got the wrong shirt. Get the wrong shirt. I don't think they have any Persona 5 shirts. So.
It works. It works for the theme of the show because we're talking about Persona.
Persona.
Okay? Persona,
yes.
Baby. And, by the way, forewarning.
Yes.
This video may or may not contain potential spoilers.
Oh God! Scared the burp right out of me with that one. Oh goodness!
Oh boy! Yeah. So
spoilers,
despite
maybe.
Atlas and Sega's warnings, we may or may not talk about spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only like 20 hours into the game. The game's humongous, so there's not going to be like huge spoilers. I mean, like if you've played, like, I'm only at the second dungeon, so it's like if you've played through the game a little bit, you're not going to get the game spoiled for you.
Okay,
so
good. I was probably going to buy it this Sunday.
Yeah, I'll try not to divulge too much.
Well, viewer discretion is advised.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about some Persona 5. We're going to rate it in our 5-star review system here. In our 5-star review system, we talk about graphics, the general gameplay, the combat, the story, and the controls.
Bam!
There you go.
5.
Right there. 5.
That's our theme.
5. And this is going to be, honestly, the fucking first time we actually use it, because I don't think we used it in our Mass Effect video. We didn't use it in our other video either, the Breath of the Wild. But if I had to say, Breath of the Wild, 5 out of 5.
6 out of 5. Breath of the Wild.
Andromeda, 4.25 out of 5.
Yes.
Anyway, so Persona 5. Let's get a 5, baby.
Ooh.
All right. First thing I want to talk about here. Okay, so
let me know. What is it?
Let's just get it out of the way. Let's talk about the controls.
Yeah. Solid.
Are they pretty good controls?
Yes, I like them. I played a lot of JRPGs in my day, and like sometimes JRPGs you can get a little caught up in the menus, like if you're like too deep into the menu, so you gotta like here's a menu to get in a menu to get in a menu. It's like just it's too much.
Yeah.
And some JRPGs it just gets lost. Like I remember playing Final Fantasies where it's just like menu to get into like a menu to change something. Like Persona 5, the menu system is solid. The combat, I mean, it's like like yesterday, I was like, oh, I'll play for a little bit. It was like 3 hours later. I'm like, what happened? Like, I just wanted to play for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of, again, with the JRPGs, this kind of goes into graphics, but it's also a control type thing. When you get into a random battle, there's a lot of JRPGs, it feels disconnected. So you run into an enemy, and then like you go to like a small load screen, and then the battle loads up, and you do the battle, and then you finish the battle, and then you go to another load screen, and then you're back into the world. Persona, pretty much, there's no load screen between getting into the battle, doing the battle, and getting out of the battle. So you run up to the enemy, you engage the enemy, boom, you're right in there. I mean, there's no load screen. I mean, like the enemy comes in, and then your team's there. I mean, and then like it's super. If you're familiar with the Persona style, like the style of gameplay is like you exploit the enemy weaknesses to get additional turns. So say they're weak to electric. If you do an electric move on them, you'll get one more turn. So you'll be able to move again. And then exploiting this and using this system is key to victory, because without it, you'll probably end up dying in battle. So that's the big thing, is exploiting enemy weaknesses to get one more turn, and then doing that finishes the battle. And then obviously, like exploring the dungeons is super smooth. It's like you just like basically walk up to something, press X to jump on top of it. So it's not a whole lot of like weird like inconsistencies with the controls. It's really easy. Like the controls solid, menu system solid, gameplay, getting in and out of battle solid.
Good. That's good. That's nice. So like, would you, for the controls, would you just give it a solid star?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot that I've complained about.
I
Why are you throwing your pen on the ground? What are you doing?
No, man. All right.
Jeez.
Sorry. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so then you were already talking about combat a little bit. Let's talk about combat.
Yeah, combat, like, again, exploiting the enemy weaknesses. I fought one boss so far, and it was pretty unique for, like, a JRPG-style boss fight, because your team is fighting, and then you're fighting, and you're kind of talking to the boss at the same time as you're fighting them, so they'll be fighting, and all of a sudden you'll get them down to a certain health, and then they'll have like some dialogue with you. So like there'll be dialogue options, and you'll talk to them, and you'll keep fighting. And then there is an option to send one of your party members to go do like an additional task as you're fighting this boss. So you send them off to do something to exploit a weakness on the boss in a different area. So then they do that, and then that affects the boss as you're fighting it. So it's really dynamic. With the combat it's not just like again the typical JRPG where you're just like press A, attack, boom. Okay, press to do the magic. Do my magic. Battle's over. Okay, back to the game. You're really, I mean, it's dynamic. The big thing with Persona is, well, because Persona is originally part of the Shin Megami Tensei series. That's an overarching series. Persona's a spin-off. They don't use that anymore for Persona, but the Shin Megami Tensei series is known for talking to your enemies. So it'll be like the demons that you can talk to and recruit and get their power. So it's kind of like Pokemon, where you can like catch different demons and use their skills to help you. So it's kind of like Pokemon in that style, where you basically catch new things to train and unlock skills. So that's where Pokemon got the idea from, because Shin Megami is older than Pokemon.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Shin Megami's been around since around like the 80s. I think it was like 86 the first one came out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, this series it's been going on for a while. Now I think with Persona 3 and 4, it started to pick up in the West, and in Persona 5, I mean, now it's pretty much like exploded in popularity.
Retarded popular.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the unique thing. You exploit their weaknesses, and if all enemies are down as you're fighting them, like, because if you do the weakness, they're down and they have to take a turn off. If all the enemies are down, you can choose to talk to them. So you talk to them, and like you'll say something that they like, and they'll like, oh yeah, I like that, and then they'll be like, oh, I want to join you because I like what you're saying, and then you can recruit their power, or you can ask them to give you an item, or you can ask them to give you money. So if you're like, well, I don't need a new persona, I don't need like a new demon to come fight with me, I'll just ask for money. They'll give you some money, or they'll give you an item or something.
Okay.
So it's really different. It's not like your typical JRPG where
it's not like your basic turn-based JRPG type thing.
Because like a lot of turn-based JRPGs, you don't talk to the enemy, you just fight them, kill them, move on, get the experience, and go. Okay. This one, you can actually recruit them to fight with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So I heard there was a huge tutorial. Like,
well, I mean, I'm 20 hours. I'm 20 hours into the game, and I think I'm still seeing some tutorial stuff. Like the first,
it's not like just a basic tutorial level. It's kind of like throughout the game type thing.
Yeah, I think I'm almost towards the end of the second dungeon, and I think I'm almost done seeing everything, like all like the introduction and like the basics of the game. So I think it feels like about a 20-hour tutorial in this game, which isn't a bad thing, because there's a lot in this game, and there's a lot to do, and there's a lot to remember, because there's just so much in this game. So I mean, if they just kind of dump that all on you right away, you'd kind of feel overwhelmed. So this way they introduce you to things slowly. So it's like, this is this, this is this, this is this, as you go on. So I mean, I'm 20 hours in, and I feel like I'm just at the end of the tutorial feel of the game.
Good. 20 hours. It took that long, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what would you give the combat? Like, solid star, half star, quarter
Yeah,
star?
I'll give it a solid start because a lot of JRPGs that can get boring after you get in the battles, and it's like it almost feels like a grind where you're just like, just get me through the battles onto the next. But this one, you want to fight the enemies. You don't want to just run away from them and like get on with it. Like you actually want to fight and do the combat.
Okay. And another question, like, so basic turn base obviously is just, click a button, attack, click a button, attack, and and go all the way through it and all that stuff. So it's not like that. Like
it is.
Okay.
You have the option to controlling. You control your guy, like the protagonist, and then you can have options set up to control your team members, or you can have them act on their own. So the AI is pretty smart. So if they have an ability to do the weakness of the enemy, they'll do it, and they'll like down the enemy.
Good.
Or you can control them directly. So like in boss battles, you probably want to control them directly just because it's a little bit more cutthroat at a boss battle.
Yeah.
Just random enemies, you just let them do whatever. Like, who cares? But at boss battles, you can directly control them. There's a bunch of options. You can have them like support and heal, go all out, or there's just a couple options. And then, all like the typical tropes of the turn-based JRPG, like use an item, attack, like a normal attack, use a skill. This one has like a shooting. You can choose to shoot the enemy with your gun instead of attacking them normally, and some enemies are weak to gunshots, so that's unique to this game too.
Okay. Another question I had about it is, I had it formed in my head, but I think I forgot it. I might remember it later, but let's just move on. Let's go ahead and just move on here. So non-combat, general gameplay, like kind of go into that. What's it like?
That's pretty much the highlight of this game is just like because the way the game is set up, it takes place over like the days.
Yeah.
So the game starts. It's like you start the day, you wake up, you go to school, and then you can choose to. Well, I don't feel like going to the dungeon today. I'll talk to one of my buddies at school, and I'll because there's these ranks that you get as you talk to your teammates and the people around you. You rank up, and that unlocks skills within the dungeon.
Okay.
So if you choose to talk with them, you get skills in the dungeon. And talking to them unlocks like more backstory on them. That's one of the highlights of the game is not even dungeon crawling, just like talking to the people that you encounter and talking to your teammates and
just the story aspect of it.
Oh yeah. There's times where I'm like, well, I don't feel like dungeon crawling. I'm gonna go work a part-time job at the ramen shop instead. So, or I'm gonna go because in the game. Midterms were coming up, so I had to study for midterms. So instead of dungeon crawling, I'd go to the library and study.
Now, when you say that, when you study for midterms, are you like, is it actually like quizzing you on stuff, or is it just you sitting there, just your character sitting there reading a book?
Yeah, it's kind of like you do that, but in the game, like throughout the days, if you're in class every day, pretty much, like Monday through. All the time.
Okay.
It's not like American schools where they have Saturday, Sunday off. You go to school Saturday and Sunday. Like there's school.
Yeah, that's how Japanese culture is. So
So like random days throughout the year, the teacher will ask you a question, and it'll be like you have three options, and like you pick the right one, and you get it right, your knowledge in the game increases. So there's little points that go up. Your knowledge will increase a little bit.
Yeah.
And if your knowledge at a certain point unlocks other things, so the game is like super deep. But yeah, like studying. You'll go and study, and it'll like show your guy like writing in this little notepad, like doing some math homework or something, and then you'll get a point in knowledge, like your knowledge will go up. And then the actual exam that I took, like it was questions that you had to answer.
Oh wow!
And like if you got them wrong, you could do poorly on the test and like get a bad grade, and that would affect like affect the game. You just
looked it up yourself.
Yeah. But if you want,
whatever.
If you're like a total purist and like you don't want to look it up, you don't have to. You don't have to look it up. You can just like guess or figure it out or something. But yeah, the game is like both parts of the game are great. I mean, there's times where I don't even want to do dungeon crawling. Like, I don't want to fight enemies. I just want to live in this world, and I want to be with these characters and learn about them and talk to them and just kind of like live this normal life that they have in the game because it's so well done.
And you have that option, but like, so we're gonna go into the story a little bit here too. So like, what is the reason behind going into these dungeons?
Yes.
Like, what is the reasoning behind that? Because, like you said, you can choose to live in this normal life. Like, is there consequences for just choosing to live in this normal life, or okay?
So like,
go into
the first dungeon, for example, is they're called palaces, and they're basically these figments of these characters' minds that they've created in this. It's called the metaverse. So like, you go into this alternate universe, and you infiltrate these palaces that these. So the first one is a teacher at the school you're at. You're inside his palace, and it's like a castle because when he was at the school in the normal world. He treated the school like his castle, and he was king. Basically, he was in charge of everyone, and he was like basically dictating everything, and he was a total dick.
Yeah.
So then you infiltrate the palace, and the point of the palace is to steal their heart, which is their true feelings. You steal their heart, and then their real world. You defeat the shadow version of them. So like, they have the real version and then the shadow version inside the palace. You defeat their shadow version of themselves, and they confess to all the things they've done wrong. So in the example of the first one it's a high school gym teacher. There was rumors going around that he was being abusive towards students, sexually harassing students, and he was the cause of one of the students' suicide attempt.
Oh.
But he didn't admit any of this, and he was basically getting away with it the entire time he was teaching at the school. So you go into the palace, you defeat him, and then the real version of him admits to everything. He comes out, he says, yes, I was abusing these students. Yes, I sexually harassed these girls. Yes, I was doing all this bad stuff.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's the point of palaces, is to get people to confess to their crimes.
Okay.
There's always a deadline to do it. Like the first one, you had like 14 days to defeat the dungeon to complete the palace. Because within the game, he was going to have a meeting and get you expelled. And if you were expelled, the game would end. Because so you had like 14 days to do it. I mean, the dungeons aren't like ridiculously long, so it doesn't take you, like, I think you can probably do it in I think I did in like 3 visits to the dungeon. But yeah, if you don't complete it within the time limit, the game ends and you'll be sent back to the start to like where you like originally started. You get to try again.
So then, so you just got done with that first palace.
Yeah.
And so you were mentioning that you just want to live in this real world. Now you said one of the consequences for not completing that first palace was you might get expelled and the game would end. Is that something that happens every time, or is it like kind of go into that there? That is what gets you to go to the dungeons, because if there was no there's nothing like forcing you to go in the dungeons. I mean, you could just ignore it. But if you ignore it for too long, the time limit runs out, and it's basically game over. That's like your game over is getting expelled. The one I'm at now is the guy. He's like a famous artist, and the deadline to do it is he's going to press charges because you broke into his house to find some stuff out, and he caught you. So you have 2 weeks to infiltrate the dungeon. At the end of the 2 weeks, he's going to press charges, and then you're going to get expelled. So you can't get expelled in the game, because if that happens, game over. You go back, you try again. Okay, so, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's like the gameplay mechanic, is to get you to do the dungeon in a timely manner. Like, you have this amount of time to do it. If you don't do it, then it's game over.
And if you're like a purist and you wanted to get all the possible stats, does the time limit allow you to you can just drop something real quick and then go do that, or just does it give you an adequate gap that you can do it, or does it sacrifice anything?
Yeah, it's all about choices in this game, because if you choose to do the dungeon, that's the only thing you can do for that day. Okay. So you say At the end of the school day, it'd be like, okay, what do you want to do now? School's over. What do you want to do? So you can choose to, like, oh, I want to go work my part-time job. If you do that, you can't go to the dungeon. Or, like, I want to hang out with a buddy. If you do that, can't go to the dungeon. Or, like, I want to go to the dungeon. You can't do anything else. That's all you do. You get home, you got to go to bed right away.
Gotcha.
So it's all about managing decisions. Like, well, do I want to go do the dungeon right now? Or do I want to hang out with a friend and try to get, like, a social bond and try to get a skill up in that social bond? Or I can work my part-time job and make money to buy more gear for my guys to do better in the dungeon. So it's all about choices in this game.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. So it definitely you gotta juggle between all these choices then.
Yeah.
And really gotta figure it out. So, I'm excited to play this game.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
I mean, what I've found to be, I think the most like the easy, well, not the easiest, but like the best course of action is to, once you get the ability to go into a new palace, just power through it in like 1 to 3 days, and then you have the rest of the time to build up your bonds and your social links and make money and kind of do the social aspect of the game and not have to worry about the dungeon aspect of the game.
Nice.
Not to say that the dungeon aspect isn't good and well done, but it's just good to get it out of the way because then you can not worry about it and then
just focus on the rest of the story.
Yeah, focus on the story, and then as soon as those days are up, then the story continues. So It's like the story moves forward at the end of those days.
Sweet.
I mean, you got enough time to do it. I mean, you could take your time. You could space it out and you could take almost the whole time if you wanted to.
Nice. Cool. So going over general gameplay, would you just give that a solid star?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the story. I don't know if you want to spoil anything or not. It's completely up to you. But
sure.
So like, how do they do the story? Do they do it so they do the different palaces? So is each palace just a different chapter of the story, and does it have like an overarching thing?
It's set up pretty unique for JRPGs. What I've found, it's the game starts, you're playing as your character. You're running through this like scenario where you're fighting monsters and stuff, and then you get caught.
Okay.
And then you get thrown into an interrogation room. So the story is basically taking place. You're being interrogated by this woman. So then you're recalling all this stuff, and that's where the game takes place. Is you're telling her all these things, and she's trying to piece all this stuff together. So it's basically you telling her in the interrogation room all these things, and that's where you're playing the game.
Okay.
And then the game randomly cuts back to the interrogation room. So it'll be like a new character's introduced to you, and then it'll cut back to the interrogation room. She'll be like, "Oh, this character was like part of your like entourage and part of your team, like so that's how you did it." And then it'll go back to the game.
Okay.
So then you'll like, or something big will happen, and it'll cut back to the interrogation room, and she'll be like, well, why didn't you know this and this? And you can answer the question. So the way it's set up is really unique because it's not like it doesn't feel super straightforward. It's like you're going back and forth trying to unwrap this mystery that you don't really know yourself because, I mean, you're playing through the game. You're not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the story, it's set up, and then like you get introduced to characters all the time. There's new characters that pop in and like pop out, and there's always there's side quests that you can do. I mean, the game it's like super
nice.
In depth. There's so much to do in this game.
Nice. So yeah, that kind of reminds me of how they did Dragon Age 2, because they had the dwarf guy. I forget his name honestly. They had the dwarf guy, and he was being interrogated by the Inquisitor lady, and he was just telling the story of you playing the game, basically.
Yeah, so, that's how this is set up.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So story so far, what would you rate that? Would you give that solid or 3/4?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I mean, I like the story. I feel like I'm like still really, really early into the story because so far,
only 20
like
hours in so far.
like the interrogation, like that story, like the main story, the interrogation and why I'm there and what happened leading up to that. I haven't really unlocked I don't think I've gotten too far into that. But like the day-to-day stuff, like figuring out teacher, the gym teacher, and like figuring out his palace and all that stuff. I like that. It's well done. But I think I just need to keep playing to unlock the deeper story and like get into like the more in-depth interrogation and all that stuff.
Okay.
Because right now it's like they kind of just feel like really long side quests almost.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind it; they're well done, but it doesn't feel like as meaty as the main interrogation story.
Sure. So I mean, as far as like an initial review would go, I mean, would you say you're just not ready to rate that, or?
Yeah, I mean, right now I really I like the game. I think it's super solid.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good score. I'll probably give it like. I mean, so far it's like 5 out of 5 for me.
Okay.
But you never know. Maybe the story will take a weird turn, or it'll be, I don't know. But so far, I mean, I really like it. I want to keep playing. I want to figure out they're really good at kind of like just keeping you, dragging you along, giving you little snippets here, little snippets there, and
nice.
Dragging you along. So you want to keep playing. You want to figure out what happens next.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. And then lastly, let's talk about the graphics. Like, is there any? So first of all, let's talk about the style of the graphics. How do you think of that?
Yeah, it's very stylized. Very stylized.
Yeah.
Like the menus are super stylized. The characters, the dungeons, it's all super stylized. I mean, the graphics aren't like amazing. It's not. I mean, this game came out for PS3 and PS4, so
yeah.
I think it was originally developed for the PS3, and then they tuned up the graphics for the PS4, so it's not like an awe-inspiring graphical masterpiece.
Yeah.
But
as we've known from the past, 5-star, 10 out of 10 games, perfect score games, they don't really need to have the amazing graphics.
No.
But,
I mean, like the graphics, they're definitely erring on the side of being more stylish and kind of cartoony than they are at being super realistic than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the anime cutscenes. There's anime cutscenes. Those are really well done. Those look great.
Nice. Great.
The anime style characters, like they randomly pop up. Those look super great. I mean, all that stuff is super crisp and it looks really good. The combat, the way it looks in combat, it looks good. I mean, it's not amazing, but it looks good.
Okay.
It looks good.
Cool. Any glitches that you've seen so far, or graphically, or gameplay related?
No glitches.
Really? That's interesting. Well, I suppose only 20 hours in, maybe you might encounter one, but we'll figure it out.
I don't know. I don't know if there are any bugs or glitches in this game. I think they've. I don't know. I haven't seen any. I mean, there hasn't really even been like graphical hiccups or anything.
Okay. So far, you'd give this a 5 out of 5?
Yeah. 5 out of 5 so far. 20 hours in. 20 hours in. 5 out of 5. To be determined further in.
The initial review is up.
I mean,
5 out of 5.
When the story ends, it might be super disappointing. It might be super awesome, and it stays a 5 out of 5. You might slap your microphone. So, I mean, it could all change. I mean, there could be a really annoying character that I really hate that gets introduced, and I hate the game. Yeah. You never know.
You never know. Yeah, I'm going to pick this game up, too, and I'm going to play it with you, and, yeah, it's going to be pretty fun. So, yeah, I think that's all we got. Let's see. I'm going to ask you a couple other questions here.
Sure.
What's the biggest thing what's the most disappointing thing about the game so far?
Most disappointing thing about the game so far. Man. Most disappointing thing about the game.
It's hard to think of.
It is. Man, it's usually easy to think about negative things, like negative stuff. You just throw it out, no problems.
Yeah,
positive.
Yeah, like facial features being horrible.
Most negative thing. I think like it's not like a super big thing, but like the way like the loot and like the equipment system is handled, I think it's a little outdated.
Okay.
Like it doesn't feel like super in depth in any way. It's like you just equip your guys with new items and like you get further into a dungeon or further into the story and new things unlock. It just feels whatever. It doesn't feel like in depth. It doesn't feel like they really even like put any work into it. It's just like pretty bland. Like the equipment system is pretty bland.
Okay. All right. So it's just what is it? Just equipped an item and their stats increase, or
yeah. It's just like kind of boring. Like I mean, they've had this. I mean, in pretty much every Persona game that I've played, and it really hasn't changed over the years.
Does it change the way they look at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, they change the item, but it's like they're. I don't know. I just haven't found it to be very interesting.
Okay.
That's probably my only negative. The equipment is just like boring.
Is that? I mean, yeah. It's come to think of it, there's not a whole lot of other games that have really. What's a game that you would say really did well with that type of thing?
Like equipment system?
Yeah.
A really good equipment system. If you play something like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, the equipment system in there is really in depth because you get an item, like you can upgrade it. You can upgrade it in certain paths. So like you can give it elemental damage. You can do all this stuff. In Bloodborne, it's even more in depth. You can give it like special runes to give it special abilities and all that.
Okay.
So like a Bloodborne style or like a Dark Souls style upgrade system, equipment system like that would just be a little bit more interesting than just equipping new items.
Okay. Gotcha. What's the best thing about the game?
The best thing about the game?
Yeah.
Man, I just want to just live in like Tokyo and like just be hanging out in Japan, making coffee in the coffee shop, and just like going to school and like.
You wanna go to Japan? You wanna go move to Japan? Is that what you're saying?
Just like talking to your buddies and your friends and getting the social links up is probably the best thing about the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's times I play it, I don't even want to go into the dungeon. I just want to talk to them and learn about them and get deeper into their character development because it's so well done and they're so interesting. All the characters are super interesting.
That's good. Yeah.
So I just want to know more about these characters.
Yeah, that's definitely good. That's definitely a good aspect of a game to like.
Yeah.
Is when you get into the story and start learning about all the characters and you're very interested in the characters and some games just don't have that.
Yes, that is true. Some games.
There's one game I'm thinking in particular, but I think that's.
Any more hard-hitting questions? Hard-hitting journalism here.
I'm trying to think of one, but no, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't have anything right now. So maybe if I think of something, I'll ask you in the final review. How about that?
That means I got to keep playing.
I don't think that's going to be a problem for you.
90-hour game. I'm only 20 hours in.
All right, man. All right, well, that's all we got. That's Persona. That's our initial review of Persona 5. Possibly spoiler free, maybe a little bit.
Mild spoilers.
Well, who cares? We put the disclosure on it, so.
Mild spoilers. I mean, it's nothing that you're just gonna freak out about.
Yeah. All right. So that's gonna be it. We'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hey everyone! Thanks for watching the video.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow us on the Twitter, ChrisAndZachAttack. Follow us on Instagram, ChrisAndZachAttack. And follow us on Twitch, SgtMajorCool,
ZachAttack 4131.
and ChrisAndZachAttack, the join community channel.
That's us.
And thanks for watching. Everything you do will help us rise to the top.